Alright, Mutation 92 here. I'm going to talk about Kele, which was not her original name. Her name originally was something else, started with an A, but I don't remember it because I changed the name. The player had a hard time pronouncing it. Everybody had a hard time pronouncing it. So I changed it. And I told her a bunch of times that she could change the name if she wanted to. Because the name, I had actually come up with the name as a temporary thing. A few years ago, a year before we even started the Western, I had asked them to, give me their character sheets and everything, make it up. Because I was doing an event on Instagram where I posted Western characters every day for the entire month of October. And I was trying to prepare it. I wanted all the player characters ready. And they're my friends, so, what's so hard about, doing this for me? Well, it took a while, and I didn't even get all the details. Like I said, I had to come up with a name for her myself, and she never came up with her own name for the character. So that was fun. The initial concept was really cool. A storm cleric who worshipped the Thunderbird, right? So the concept was really cool. So originally, this is like her third or fourth design. Initially, she wore all blue and purple, and she had like fabric that would come down this way, attach at a belt, and then fly off, right? And you'll notice she doesn't have wings, and that's because this version, yeah, and now it looks like crap, because I used those wings for something else. But that's because this version isn't going to stick around. So she was never really happy playing this character. So I tried to push the character more and more into something that she wanted it to be. But she just kept not enjoying it. I was trying really hard to help her enjoy the experience. It just didn't work out. So originally she was aligned with the Thunderbird being this giant mystical deity for the natives. And so she would have been found and adopted by a native village who lives at the base of the plateau, one of the places where the Thunderbird is believed to roost. And finding an Aarakocra baby, the idea is that these are not, the Aarakocra are not prevalent in North America. And so this may have even been the first time that these natives saw a bird person. So this would have been seen as a miraculous sign. They raised her up in their religion. She became a priestess of the Thunderbird. However, the player didn't want to play her like that. The player wanted, she just wants to be chaotic. She wants to be evil. And so we gave her an out. We brought in the giant white serpent from native culture and offered her a way to join them. And so the second design had a lot of scales. It was green and gold. But I could never really figure out the right mix of green and gold. So this one, this body here is a Power Ranger character. This player likes to have a lot of skin showing. I normally don't like designing characters like that. It just feels impractical. If a character is running around in the forest, they don't need, a giant chest, high heels, and lots of skin showing. They're going to get cut up. They're going to be in constant pain. I don't like designing characters like that. So, but this design, got a little more raunchy. Anything white and gray is her skin showing. A bit of corruption lines coming up around her legs and her arms. And like I said, this is basically just there's some Power Ranger villain I got in a 2-pack from Ollie's at one point. But this player is not coming back to this world, and I don't like outright getting rid of characters or designs. I have a couple of characters, a couple of players that aren't coming back, so they'll become NPCs. So Kele here is actually getting upgraded. Now, warning, this one also doesn't have wings, but I have an explanation. So this is the new Kele. She's too tall for the screen. Yeah, so originally, Aarakocra in D&D are supposed to be short. I think that should depend on the kind of bird. Now, I based the original design a little bit on like a secretary bird, but that doesn't make sense. I did it because it's gray and there was some coloration on the face. Because she was going to have a colorful costume, and so you want to balance out. When you're designing a character, you want to balance out the colors. You don't want them to look like a clown. You don't want them dressed in a rainbow. You got to balance it out. So she was going to have gray feathers because of the bright blues and purples in her design. The new one, I've dressed her in red and purple, and she has blue feathers. She's based on a mountain bluebird, which is native to America, which is why the secretary bird didn't make sense. That's not native to America. And the idea is that I rebuilt all of the races, all of the peoples, all of the everything. If you want to be a very specific animal like a hyena, then your character is going to have roots in Africa because that's where hyenas are from. So you can be a beastkin in Africa, but you're going to have to pick an animal native to that area or come up with a backstory for why you're an elk, So this figure's not quite done. You can see she doesn't have wings. In my first X-Men video, I mentioned that I had bought Angel specifically for his wings for a custom. This is that custom. But if I move those wings over, they have to be painted blue. I can't use them for Angel anymore. So I just haven't done that yet. My eventual plan is that Angel won't even be in my X-Men collection anyway. That's a 97 collection. I need him in his blue costume with metal wings. So I'm probably going to end up having to get the X-Force Archangel and throw his body in a bin, stick the metal wings on the red body, and paint it blue. Whether I want to or not. I mean, it would have been cool for them to just give us a new classic Archangel. I understand them doing the X-Force one first, but they really need to do a new, pink and blue one. But that's off topic. Yeah, so I've done a tail here. I've got all the patterning going on. There's a hole in the back here, and that's because she's going to have feathers sticking out. And I just haven't attached those yet. Because I want to make sure that the wings are here and the feathers are here and they don't interfere when you're trying to move her around. Now, she's built on a Gargoyle's Demona body, which I had already had. I had the body, and I was like thinking about ripping the feet off for this dragon character that I'm building for the Western. I ended up finding another solution to him, but I was like, well, if I'm keeping her, she's going back to the Thunderbird. Like, I'm going to go back to the original design. She's going back to the Thunderbird cleric. Now, I don't really have any accessories for her. So the way this was going to be structured was the beginning of the video would be talk about the parts, talk about the accessories, and then go into the lore. But this had to be done differently because, obviously I have two different designs for 2 different reasons, and the story wasn't as fleshed out with her because the player didn't really want to play this character. So I was going to start with her, start with the least, might as well. The next character, Olivia, has a similar problem in just the fact that, like, that character still has a player and may still be a player, and I don't want her watching these videos and finding out a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to have to be a little, less detailed with hers, but, I'm going to do that one next. And then probably Sugmuck. I'll end with Kanang and Demos. So, yeah, that's Kele for now. Oh, and she's going to be a villain now. Like, she always wanted to play a villain anyway. She's definitely going to be a villain now. But she's still going to be, working for, the Thunderbird and doing stuff like that. So, yeah. Till next one.